Frontlines is a great mode in Battlefield 1. For me, it's on par with Operations as one of the best modes introduced to the franchise for a long time now, and it appears DICE knows this. Recently, they added the mode which was once restricted to just the maps from the They Shall Not Pass expansion to Amiens and Argonne Forest. This meant anyone who owned the base game of Battlefield 1 could access the game mode. Part of the DLC paywall was removed, and it meant both premium and non-premium players could play a new map and new mode combo in Battlefield 1. While DICE is now continuing that streak, as of last night, new versions of Frontlines were added to the CTE for testing on Monte Grappa and Ballroom Blitz. Both of these maps seem to offer something different within the same game mode. Here's an image of their flag layout side by side. Monte Grappa is by far larger, incorporating 7 flags in total that span the entire length and vertical height of the map, whereas Ballroom Blitz offers probably your more traditional layout with just 5 flags. Both of the maps are fairly open, however, and that means the space in between the flags is great for scouts who can pick players off with their rifles, and even medics who are using marksman variants of their semi-automatic rifles. But the capture points tend to favour close-range weapons, so the assault players with their shotguns and SMGs, they're going to dominate there. Starting off with Monte Grappa then, I feel this is perhaps the map that needs a little bit of tweaking, but it's still very good fun outside of the areas that need a little bit of tweaking. The up and down nature of the flags in the centre of the map means you're forced to expose yourself on the hillside essentially, and that makes smoke grenades a really good tool to cover your movements. If you've played Rush at all in Battlefield 1, I know it's not the most popular game mode anymore, but in that game mode, and even on Operations, using smoke is really important because a lot of the time you're running in straight lines backwards and forwards between objectives. Really important here on Monte Grappa where the lines of sight are very, very long, so if you can pop down some smokes, you're going to cover your movements a little bit. The whole map favours longer range shooting, but there are a few capture points that are located in the dreaded bunkers. But not to worry, DICE has made it so that you can capture the flags from on top of the bunkers as well as below. Meaning if you can get all your 16 players from your team on top of the flag, and you know the enemy team is camping underneath, then you've got a good chance at swinging the flag, or even managing to hold it still. The bunkers themselves, though, do still cause that same issue that we have on Operations and Conquest. On this map specifically, these bunkers, they reduce the gameplay into almost a pure grenade fest, if you want to stand at the doors to the bunkers. But considering DICE hasn't done any remodeling of the bunkers so far, and we're now 10 months after the launch of the game, I hardly expect that to change now. However, because Frontlines is only 32 players in total, the battles on these bunker flags are far less chaotic, and a well-organised squad with medics reviving and support players dropping ammo crates, you can easily break through those bunker doors. Now, when I heard the CTE had updated yesterday and I found out that Monte Grappa was one of the maps that was having Frontlines added to it, I was a little bit apprehensive because I thought DICE might put 3 flags at the top of the hill for one team in a line, and then 3 flags at the bottom of the hill in a line for the other team. However, it looks fairly symmetrical, even though from the spawn view it might look a little bit one-sided. The D flag, the starting point, is down low in the tunnel, and that's easily accessible to both teams. E and C come right up the mountainside on either side of D. B and F are both back lower down the map, and then A and G, you have very similar verticality levels, with G being slightly more downhill. Overall, it's very well balanced, but it is geared towards people who like to play the long game. And that means you're going to be going backwards and forwards between the same flag quite a lot, depending on who's got the higher ground. Ballroom Blitz, however, is totally different. Most of the flags all lay flat at the same level, and they simply mimic the Conquest flags, really. And that makes the map really easy to understand, and the gameplay flows really naturally. The map overall is a bit closer in its engagement ranges, so medics and support players are going to do well here. Around the objectives, again, you're going to have assault players with their SMGs and their shotguns doing quite well. And the scouts, they can be effective when the fighting is over the central C flag in that courtyard. There, as we have with Conquest, you can climb up to the second floor of the surrounding building and you can look into the courtyard or out into the grounds beyond. And that can make for a very effective tactic. You're actually able to capture the flag from up there and you give yourself plenty of cover at the same time. Assault players with SMGs will enjoy the section where the map moves into the ballroom itself. It just turns into that chaotic arena that you know and love from Conquest. Both of these maps actually are a very natural fit for Frontlines because most of the maps in the game are designed to support operations, Battlefield 1's other very popular linear game mode. Now sure, Conquest is probably the most popular mode, I would say, because people can easily access it right now, and we'll talk about that in another video, but most of the maps are linear, and because of that, Frontlines can almost be slipped onto them like a jacket. I'd be surprised if DICE didn't continue this streak of just ending up sticking Frontlines on all of the base game maps into the future. Suez would be a really good one to do, considering how much of a pain it can be in Conquest with 64 players. Cut the player number in half, add Frontlines, which is essentially Conquest, with flags all in a straight line, and I think you'll find that map will be far more enjoyable to play than it is right now on Conquest. Come to think of it, Suez hasn't actually seen any updates in a while, and DICE was supposed to have taken the map back in for a rethink. You might remember at the launch of Battlefield 1, Suez was a 3-flag map, and then it got switched very quickly to a 5-flag map, and then DICE said they wanted to take it back into testing because they didn't think it flowed very well, and it didn't work very well on Conquest. It was extremely one-sided for one of the teams. It would be very interesting to know if they have anything planned for this map now, because you've got to consider the Russian DLC is out in about a month, Turning Tides comes out in December, and then we've got the Apocalypse DLC in early 2018, so there aren't that many gaps now that DICE can really use to work on larger projects that aren't DLC projects. But that said, they've made time to keep adding Frontlines to different maps, so maybe we'll see something in the future. Who knows? I'd love to see Frontlines on Suez. Now, just a couple of other things that I want to mention today, so you're all up to date with the latest Battlefield 1 news. We're going to talk about Battlefield 1 at Gamescom. It's now been confirmed by EA what will be happening with the game there. We can expect mentions of the game in EA's keynote speech. That's happening on Monday the 21st of August in the evening. I think that's the day before Gamescom starts, and then the next day is the press day. So likely we'll see some trailers in there, I expect for the Russian DLC in the Name of the Tsar, and maybe a couple of other things too. There will be more information about the competitive element being added to the game. No confirmation if it will be playable at Gamescom, or if it will be just information in the keynote, but details will be coming. Personally, I'm really excited about this, despite Battlefield 1 having that casual label on it. I want to see what DICE has done to create something different that allows Battlefield 1 players to use their skill to determine who's going to win something. It would be interesting to see if they go with the settings they've got now, or if we see some drastic changes in gameplay balance come September. And lastly, In the Name of the Tsar content will be available on the show floor for gamers to come and play. Lupkow Pass is launching in August, so I expect that to be there, along with a couple of the other maps as well, although I think DICE are following that same trajectory that they did with They Shall Not Pass, where they don't show all of the content, but they show some of it before it launches. There's nothing confirmed on that content right now, but In the Name of the Tsar will be on the show floor, so if you're going to Gamescom, you've got something to play. But there you go, thanks very much for watching. Frontlines on 2 new maps, well they're not new maps, but Frontlines added to base game maps, which equals new content, I guess. Let me know what you think of the Monte Grappa and Ballroom Blitz additions to Frontlines. Personally, I really like the mode, and the more maps that it's on, the better. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll be down there reading as many as I can. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.